So we'd like to welcome you to the next to last lecture in our Sustainability Innovation Lecture Series. We would like to thank A5 Branding Interactive out of Chicago, Innovative Solar, NIPSCO, and 88.1 WBPE for underwriting this lecture series and making it possible. We'd also like to remind you that we offer undergraduate, minor, and major for students here, and some of our students who are in their final class of the undergraduate and graduate programs are here. Will you raise your hands? So these are students who are actually going through these projects and taking the innovation ideas out into the community. We look forward to continuing to work with them as they expand our network, and I'm sure we'll see some of them standing up here in the future. I'd like to let you all know that next week we'll be having Robert Colangelo. We did send out a email notice that everybody got it, but we've made a switch. Robert is going to be coming in next week, and Therese graciously agreed, having been displaced by the snow, graciously agreed to move up this time. We have created a relationship with WNIT, and we're going to film a pilot with Robert next week, and we're going to try to use that to get funding to turn this lecture series next year into a WNIT television series. So that's what's going to be happening, and it turns out that Robert was the one person we had on the schedule who already has a little bit of a video created, and so we figured we'd go ahead and use some of that, and so they're coming next week, so we'll be seeing them. But what that means is that this week, we have the opportunity to hear from Therese Doral. Therese is currently the director of the Office or Division of Sustainability, depends on how you look on the website. She got her Bachelor's of Science in Chemistry from Xavier University and a Master of Science in Sustainable Systems from the University of Michigan School of Natural Resources and Environment. She's originally a Muncie native and just moved here a couple of years ago to launch the city's office. Previously, she worked in South Bend's Office of Sustainability in Washington, D.C. She managed consulting projects related to energy efficiency, renewable energy, and environmentally friendly practices for corporate and government clients. She has also worked with city and county governments interested in developing sustainability programs, served as legislative assistant in the Iowa General Assembly, and as a college chemistry instructor. In her free time, she says, she takes full advantage of South Bend's wonderful local beer, food, music, and outdoor offerings. And all I can say personally is that during the last 2 years that she's been here, Therese has really helped our city take an integrated overview of all of the elements of sustainability, and working with our own Kristen Bailey as a program coordinator, they have helped to develop a sustainability plan for the city and have really done a lot of stuff. Tonight she's going to be talking about, I think, one of the best titles of our speaker series. She's going to be talking about smart streets, smart sewers, smart citizens, the infrastructure of sustainable living. So please help me welcome Therese Doral.
Okay, I feel like I look like a robot. Women don't get jacket pockets. We're not doing them. So this thing is doing this. So excited to see everyone here today. This is rescheduled after a terrible blizzard where I'm sure there would have been one person in the audience, my mother. And so I'm really glad to see you, and especially so many of my favorite Southland faces all in one place. So nice to see you all here. And the great thing about coming up with a catchy title early on is that it's kind of sort of does the outline for your presentation when you're like, oh, crap, I have to write a presentation. It kind of wrote itself. So really excited about that and really excited to be here. And if you're really disappointed that I'm not Robert, I'm sorry. but my talk will still be good. Okay, so just a quick outline. I'm going to give you a little bit of a introduction. Mike did introduce me, but I also want to tell you a little bit, because there's some new students in the room, about how I got here in South Bend, which is definitely not something that I ever foresaw happening. So, interesting story. And then I'll tell you a little bit about sustainability as it relates to the city of South Bend, and then dig a little bit into the wicked problems that sustainability tries to address, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with conceptually, but I'll apply them for you to some of the city projects that we have going on. And then a conclusion, because that is a good way to end the presentation. Mike gave you a little bit about my technical background, but one thing that I do like to tell people is how I ended up in sustainability, switching from chemistry. And it really has to do with how much I love Ann Arbor and how fabulous University of Michigan is. And I knew pretty much day one that getting a chemistry PhD was not a good life I made for myself. And went through the graduate school departmental website, line by line by line. I started with like astronomy, and I don't even know what these things are, but could I see myself a graduate degree in them so I don't have to leave Ann Arbor? And I discovered a degree called Sustainable Systems, which at the time was only a couple years old. I was actually only the second graduating class. I didn't really know what it meant. I actually didn't know that you could study sustainability as a career, and that there would be like jobs in that field. So that was pretty exciting. And I liked the Sustainable Systems degree because it was a really good complement of engineering, business, policy, and ecology. And so I really got a well-rounded background, which has really done me well in my career as a sustainability and energy professional. So I really liked it, switching from chemistry to sustainability, because it was a lot more applied, it was a lot more practical. Chemists are very focused on, they're truly passionate about molecules, specific molecules, and you can spend your entire career working on one molecule. And if you ask the question why, they don't always have a great answer. And I wanted to know why. Who does this molecule help? Why are we doing these experiments? What is the benefit to society? And so when I started in sustainability, I really felt that it was very practical, very applied, solving some of the most complex problems of our time. Very exciting. So led me to DC and several years in consulting. While I was consulting, I started to work with local governments through the Recovery Act and a special program called the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant. So I was a contractor for DOE, helping Midwestern communities, including our very own municipal energy office, helping them to spend their sustainability and energy dollars in a way that made sense for the community. That's when I really started getting excited about what communities could do in sustainability when left kind of to their own devices and able to make their own priorities. So that was a great program. It kind of drove my career towards city government, and I was really excited to see the position open up in South Bend. Not really ever thinking I'd move back to Indiana when I left at 18, but it was a great opportunity, and I think many of you know that one of the things that South Bend has going for it is that you get opportunities a lot sooner in your career than you maybe would have in a larger market. So I'm very excited to have the opportunity to serve as a sustainability director. Really grateful to Mike and Krista for their support and mentorship, and really just how welcoming the community has been. So this is my life now. So when we sat down to create the Office of Sustainability, kind of based on the foundation of the Municipal Energy Office, we really wanted to take a triple bottom line approach. As an energy consultant, this was something that we had always talked about with our corporate clients, and really looking at kind of what some people call the 3 Ps, people, planet, profit. Some people call the 3 Es, environment, economy, equity, and then in the corporate sustainability world, of course, the triple bottom line. So when we worked with our stakeholders to come up with a mission statement, we made sure that the triple bottom line was represented. So this is our office mission statement, focusing on bringing environmental, social, and economic value to city city government and to the public. So why do cities need sustainability? Well, there are lots of benefits to city government as a governing body. Cutting operation expenses, reducing inefficiencies, being a better steward of taxpayer dollars, improving communications between city departments, strengthening relationships between residents and the diverse residents and various city departments, basically improving the relationship between government and the people that it serves. And sustainability also helps within the government to support development and infrastructure priorities that were ongoing. When I walked into the administration, there were already a number of huge things in the works. Sustainability really dovetailed and helped support, helped break down silos, helped add some dimensions and some value to a lot of things that were already going on, two of which I'm going to talk about here in a minute. And there are lots of benefits to the community as well. Communities that invest in sustainability usually have stronger and more diverse economies, which is more resilient to downturns and industrial market changes and those kinds of things. Lower utility bills for citizens seems like a straightforward thing, but putting that money back in people's pockets also helps strengthen the economy. Sustainability can help improve public health and nutrition. We talk a lot about biking and walking, and here in South Bend, we're lucky to have a very strong emphasis on local foods and urban agriculture. Sustainable communities are more resilient. They bounce back more easily after disasters, both man-made and natural disasters, economic disasters, community tragedies. A sustainable community is a more resilient community. And this all kind of boils down to an increased quality of life. So sustainable communities are enjoyable places to live and work. And if you've been to some of these other presentations, John 25, for example, really get an idea of how sustainability is a building block to create the kind of community where people want to live. I'm going to talk about that at length in a bit. So to go back to the triple bottom line and the diagram that I showed before, here's what it looks like in a government setting. It's not very resolution-y, I apologize, but that's not one. Okay. So you have environmental sustainability, commercial viability, social inclusion, with everything from historic preservation to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, to adapting to climate change, to lower risk and higher value, financial value. So it's a range of things that all come out of really a focus on integrating the environmental, the economic, and the social. So how many of you live in South Bend proper? Okay, so when I arrived, really in a lot of ways, South Bend was already doing it. We had a lot of activities going on to make our community a better place that really fit under this triple bottom line umbrella of sustainability. They weren't doing it because it was greener. I don't actually expect you to read all of this. It's supposed to kind of be overwhelming. So we weren't doing it because it was green, but we were doing it because that's the role of municipal government. These are Mayor Pete's big three. We make the basics easy. We deliver good government, and we invest in people and places. That's why we were doing yard waste collection, community gardens, bike routes and bike lanes, green stormwater infrastructure, parks and forestry. That's why. So I want to talk a little bit about, cities are very focused on providing basic services. But could we be doing more as a city, as an administration? Could we be getting a triple bottom line benefit out of what seems like a very basic investment in infrastructure or a community service that we're providing? So should or can or will cities go beyond the basics to actually play a role in solving some of the biggest issues in our community and maybe even some of the biggest issues in society? The national trend has been that cities have gotten very involved in solving some of these trenchable problems. So my answer to this question is yes, definitely cities must focus on providing the basic services, that allow a community to be successful. No one is going to be successful if you do not have clean water and sanitation services. But we can be doing more, and we are doing more, and really, you all should be excited about South Bend because South Bend is really focused on getting more value out of the same investment. So, wicked problems, as defined by Austin Center for Design, is a social and cultural problem that is difficult or impossible to solve. I don't like that word possible, but due to lots of different issues, usually all combined. So incomplete knowledge, contradictory knowledge, too many opinions involved, huge expense, and really the interconnected nature of these problems with all the other problems that your city is facing. So it's really tough to dig through these, and people are afraid to try, which is why you see people biting off tiny laws and tiny ordinances and very small changes because these big problems are scary and difficult to solve. But the Sustainability Office really does try to find the highest value solution to some of these wicked problems, and your city administration is digging into a lot of these major problems and coming up with some pretty, not perfect because there's no such thing as a perfect solution, but some pretty great solutions. So I'm going to go through a couple of examples, starting with the Sustainability Office, but also talking about our sewers, our streets, and you folks as citizens. So I also want to share with you this quote. Barack Obama and his administration is making a big push for smart cities, which is a vastly encompassing program. But he did say this, that communities that are making the most progress on these types of issues, they're not looking for a single silver bullet, but they're bringing together local government with nonprofit and businesses around a shared goal. And that sense of collaboration, I think, is really important. So I don't think we have any Green Urban Commission members. We have a few, but I think the Green Urban Commission members are. But we worked with, when we first started the Sustainability Office, we worked with our Green Urban Commission, which is our community stakeholder group, and we did a lot of community meetings, we spoke at a lot of meetings, we got almost 500 survey responses to really try to understand what was important to South Bend. I've worked with a lot of communities in my other roles, and each one of them has a different sense of priority, a different sense of perspective, a different set of values. Really wanted to understand what that was here in South Bend. So we went through a community planning process to guide not only the work of the Sustainability Office, but also the work of other organizations across the city, nominally represented by the Green Urban Commission members who come from every sector in the city. And we came up with these. I'll go back to the other slide. Oh, that's why I'm missing. Okay. Maybe actually what I'm looking for. Okay. So I showed you our mission statement earlier, but this is kind of the principles that we use to try to tackle some of these wicked problems. So these are kind of our operating principles in support of our mission. So we really think that creativity, collaboration, accountability, and a knowledge of best practice is really important. That's how we bring a lot of value to South Bend by being responsive to what South Bend wants, but also to bring in knowledge from regional, national, and global communities that have already been successful at some of the stuff that we're trying. We definitely did not want to recreate the wheel. There are only 2 people in our office, and we just get things done. So there are also a number of organizations doing really amazing things in sustainability. So we wanted to be sure that we were building on local initiatives and trying to help those succeed and connect to resources rather than us recreating the same programs or initiatives. We wanted to be sure to rely on you and your skills, your experiences, your passions, your abilities. We want to be sure they rely on the community. And I'll talk about this a little bit more, but you may have heard Mayor Pete say how much he values community as capacity, and that's the idea that city government cannot provide every single thing that you would want to make your community a place that you want to live. Everyone needs to step up and do a little something, and we really do. The Sustainability Office could not be successful if it were not for the contributions of community members, either in their professional roles or as volunteers. So we definitely rely on the community and those skills and abilities. And then we do try to bridge, like I said before, the globally recognized best practices with local values. So what's important to South Bend, but we can't ignore things that have been successful in the past. Like we said, we don't have a lot of resources to be recreating wheels. So if there's pretty good wheels that have worked in Grand Rapids or Bloomington or Chicago, then maybe we can borrow them and see if they fit on our cart. So that's kind of the value or the principles that we use in supporting our mission. Okay, now, community sustainability goals. That's our Green Ribbon Commission, and just a little snapshot of the survey results that we received. And here are the community sustainability goals that we came up with. So these goals are really broad, as you can see. Big, hairy, audacious goals, certainly. But the reason that we like these goals as a Green Ribbon Commission and as a sustainability office is because it helps to build an understanding of the interconnectedness of our assets in South Bend, of our issues in South Bend, and because they're connected, the idea that the solutions would have to be interdisciplinary. So it wasn't just environmental, it wasn't just economic. You know, we had a lot of people invited to the Green Ribbon Commission that said, why am I on this committee? Why am I invited? Why does the mayor think it's important that I participate? I don't know anything about the environment. I don't know what I have to offer. And we really had to dig into the concept of the triple bottom line and the concept that economic success and social equity are connected to a healthy environment to help people understand what they had to contribute to these sustainability goals. So each of these goals addresses a system. None of it's in a vacuum. None of them are easy or definable or concrete, which was intentional. But they do encompass the majority of the work of the city administration and a lot of good projects that are happening in the community. So we're really excited about these goals and, of course, break them down into objectives and initiatives that are a lot more measurable and manageable. But these goals really do guide and shape the work that we do in the office. And then a key problem that we are always trying to solve is trying to find cost savings for city government. So a little more of a wicked problem than you would think. You'd think it'd be really easy to convince people that they want to change light bulbs. It's actually harder to convince. But we do focus on energy efficiency and renewable energy opportunities. We're looking at waste reduction, education and outreach, both within city government and also within the community, including local businesses. And then we also work hard to support kind of the cross-cutting quality of life projects that other departments or divisions might be working on, such as the planning office or the parks department. So this is kind of a specific issue that we're always trying to tackle in order to spend your dollars wisely. And then here are just some examples of other projects that we've worked on, some of our successes and exciting stuff going on in sustainability office. So I also want to talk about a couple of other wicked problems, and I'll caveat with these projects do not belong to my department, so I'm not the topmost expert in the city on these topics, but I will give you an overview and I will give you some resources if you are interested in learning more about them, and then I promise I'll tie it all together at the end. So I do want to talk about smart streets. The South Bend Smart Streets program utilizes Complete Streets philosophy. Complete Streets philosophy talks about designing streets for every user of every age and every ability. And that's pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists, transit riders, people who use assisted mobility devices, people who are pushing strollers. It's really about taking the public right-of-way and making it work for the whole public. So we adopted the Complete Streets policy through the Board of Works last fall, but the Smart Streets program has been in the works for about 4 to 5 years. So you will see now fruits of that conversation this summer. It's going to be a complete and utter crazy disaster downtown, but I promise you in October, it's going to be a whole new city, and I'm so excited. So what is the need? Oh, and this is the website, southbendin.gov/smart streets. This is a really cool website if you haven't had a chance to look at it. It just went live last week, and it includes a construction map with all the detours that you may experience, road closures, and timelines, and pictures, and updates. You can sign up for emails, and a lot of good information on that website. So what is the need for a Smart Streets program? What is the wicked problem that we're trying to solve? So I think we all recognize the street, traipsing across it, some of us daily. There's actually a fair amount of injuries and fatalities, even in South Bend. I think people don't really realize it, and especially Roseland has had a couple of issues with pedestrians getting injured or even killed, in part because the infrastructure wasn't really designed for them. They weren't really supposed to be there. But we all own the streets, so why would we not be supposed to be there? So injuries and fatalities is an issue. Speeding and congestion, it's a little bit of a racetrack going down Main Street, which I kind of enjoy, but there are better ways to spend that space. The idea of passing through versus living. One of the things that I heard when I spoke, this is actually the Roseland Rotary Club. Somebody told me, well, no one wants to go to downtown South Bend. Downtown South Bend is dead, so why wouldn't you just make it so that I can get through there as fast as possible on my way from my house in the county to wherever I'm going south of town? Just help me get through downtown as fast as possible. So that's passing through. But there are also people who live downtown, people who work downtown, people who walk downtown, people who eat and shop and recreate, walk their dogs, walk their kids, walk their grandma downtown. So those people live there, and so are we designing our streets? Are we using our streets for the people who are passing through, or are we using them for the people who are living there? And as a community, that's the decision that we made, was we're going to design our streets for the people who live here, and not for the people who are just whizzing through. As this picture demonstrates, there's not a lot of vibrancy or sense of place when you have this much asphalt. There's limited business foot traffic, because everyone is whizzing by, so you don't really have a lot of motivation to open a storefront. Pretty much minimal vegetation. We do have, I think those trees are not standing anymore. Yeah, I think most of these trees have actually been cut down. So, and it's unwelcoming for basically anyone that isn't a car. Bikes, wheelchairs, walkers, strollers, people with those rolling bags. It's just not that convenient. So that's the need. That's the problem that we're trying to solve. The opportunity, I think we all know where this is. I'm not saying downtown has to be like this, but this is an example of an opportunity. Increased density, controlled density. So, we're not trying to build 6-story buildings on every corner of town. There are certain places where it makes a lot of sense. There are certain places where it doesn't. But you can use your streetscape and your street design to control where people want to build, where the economy drives them to build, and in that way build density where you want density and save our beautiful rural places. Nodes of activity and nodes of community. So again, because you're creating density, you're also creating public gathering spaces, you're creating locations for festivals and outdoor concerts and farmers markets and craft markets and all these things that make town feel like a fun place to be. You create kind of hubs in between by the way that you design your streets. Economic opportunity, having people, having feet on the street, having eyes in your storefront window really drives economic opportunity. And I think if you've read the paper, you've seen lots of stories about all of the new development that's come to downtown since the Smart Streets bonds were passed, indicating that we really are converting the way that we use our streets from a passing through to a living situation. And And that has been really encouraging for a lot of developers in making the investments that they have made in the past couple years in South Bend. Definitely safer. So that's really important for pedestrians, cyclists, children, the elderly, people with mobility issues, to feel like they can use the street safely, to feel like they can access the bus stop, to feel like they have enough time to get across the street. They're not floundering across 6 lanes of traffic. To feel like they belong on the sidewalk or crossing the street, that they actually have just as much right to use the public space as the cars do. And it's more inclusive, so not everyone actually owns a car, believe it or not, even in Indiana. There are people who rely on transit to get to work or to take their kids to daycare. There are people who take their groceries on the bus or would really like to walk to a grocery store if they could. People who maybe would have to bike to work. So it's more inclusive of folks that don't, for whatever reason, own a car. And it supports active transportation, which is a low-carbon method of transportation. So that's biking and walking, basically. So it actually reduces emissions by allowing people to actually take trips, not in their car. And if you design it right, you can actually manage stormwater and reduce urban heat island effect with landscaping. So you add the green that we all like to see, but it also provides a lot of value in terms of managing stormwater and dealing with the next week problem that I'll tell you about. And it's an optimal use of public infrastructure. So we already built the roads, we already have the curbs in place, the buildings are already there. But we can chop up that road in a lot of different ways to achieve a lot of different values and a lot of different priorities. And then I know we all hate roundabouts, but they really do save gas and they do save time. So it's proven. Mythbusters actually did an episode on it. You can watch it. So roundabouts actually do help you get where you're going faster. Stoplights are annoying. So what's the solution? How do you build on this opportunity? So the solution is basically to get more value for more citizens out of the same street width. This is an example from Australia that shows, this was the street before, and they do have a bike lane. But if you look at the street after, they've taken several lanes and converted that into pedestrian paths. They've added a strip of green, which also helps to capture stormwater and keep it out of the storm sewer. They planted additional trees. They put in bike parking. They created more space between the parking area and the sidewalk. So I'm not really sure how they managed to capture this completely devoid of people, but in my imagination, there are people walking around, going into these buildings, and enjoying this public space again. So crosswalks too, big wide crosswalks to make people feel comfortable crossing. Different colors of brick to let pedestrians know where it's safest for them to be. And this is just paint and concrete and brick. They didn't have to tear out any buildings. They used the exact same width from the face of this building to the face of this building, all public right of way. And this is what they created. So one of the reasons that this is called Smart Streets Initiative is because there is a lot of data collection involved. This has been in process for 5-ish years. No one wanted to jump into this without being really sure it was going to work. Because honestly, you guys deserve better than that. You deserve the maximum amount of intelligent and creative and well-reasoned planning that we can possibly give you. So here are the things that we did to make sure that the Smart Streets program was going to achieve the goals that we wanted. Traffic counts and traffic demand modeling, distribution models of where the cars are going to go after they left the roundabouts, origin and destination data, actually tracking who's coming downtown, where are they coming from, who's going through downtown, where are they going, to help understand where people's trips begin and end. Researching best practices nationwide, working with professional designers. You've probably heard of Ian Lockwood over the past couple of years here in South Bend, and reaching outside of the South Bend status quo, because we can all get stuck sometimes, and really looking for people with creative and inventive ideas, and people who had experience doing this in other places. And then public engagement, which no city government is perfect at, and we certainly aren't always perfect at it, but we do really value and appreciate the public's thoughts and want to bring them along with us have you learned more, we want you to learn more, so that by the end, we all get to the same place and are excited about the progress. And then to show you a couple of specifics, here are some renderings of what the new St. Joseph Street is going to look like. The thing that I'm really excited about is this separated bike path that's going to give bikes a safe way to travel down St. Joseph Street, because there's no possible way that I would bike on this street right now. I frequently park next to the Chocolate Cafe and run for my life over to the front entrance of the Century Center. I do that a couple times a week. I'm very excited for this pedestrian island here that's going to be landscaped in green, that's going to connect the new hotel to the entrance of the Century Center, which is actually in the middle of the block and impossible to get to. So a lot of really exciting things are happening on St. Joseph Street, and I cannot wait for the fall to really see this. And then here's a mock-up of Main Street. So remember the picture that I showed you earlier that was kind of a couple blocks down from here? It was just asphalt. This is what we're going to get. And by using the same public right-of-way, which is from the face of this building to the face of this building, we get so much more space for so many more different kinds of users, and it's really going to encourage people to be out and about. So that is Smart Streets, and I encourage you all to go to southbendmayan.gov/smartstreets to learn more about it and look at these pretty pictures in great detail and try not to draw on your keyboard. So another intractable problem that South Bend is tackling, and the Sustainability Office is loosely involved in, is smart sewers. So for those of you that aren't familiar, a little tiny quick primer on what a combined sewer overflow is. In many places in the U.S., really no one planned on people going to the bathroom inside. That was like not a thing that anyone had thought would happen. So it didn't seem like we needed sewer systems to handle that much sanitary sewer. Roads were dirt, so you didn't really need storm sewer. And then as things got denser and more developed, we were like, wow, we need to take the dirty water and the rainwater and need to do something with it. So combined sewer systems send the sanitary sewer and the storm sewer water into the same collection system, which means when it's raining, there can be too much. And rather than having a closed system where this sewer and sanitary and storm sewer water mixed together would potentially back up into your basement, they created an outlet so that it would actually flow into the river rather than into people's homes. So that is good because that prevents disease. So we're happy about that. However, it's not good for the river, and it can still cause disease. So EPA is not a fan. Clean Water Act says no, please. And 722 cities in the U.S. are required by the EPA to reduce or eliminate the combined sewer overflow. This is definitely not a South Bend problem. This is basically every urbanized area east of the Mississippi problem. Everybody. And not all of South Bend was built this way. Some places have separate systems for stormwater so that it is not combined with the sewer or with the sanitary sewer. And then that actually can, in some cases, outfall to the river. But the goal is really, if you're going to be collecting it, it needs to go to the treatment plant and be treated. If you don't need to collect it, don't try to find a way to not collect it. Like, you don't want to put water in your system, but if you're going to have it in your system, you have to treat it. So just wanted to give you this overview of what we and Elkhart and Mishawaka and Indianapolis and Detroit and Cleveland, this is a problem that a lot of people do. So why is this a wicked problem? So really, this is our beloved St. Joseph River. How many people in here are canoers or kayakers? How many people are fisher people? A lot of ladies. And then, how many people have ever rafted on the East Race? Yeah. Okay. So we don't want poop water in our river. I think we agree. We don't want poop water in the river. You know who else doesn't? Fish. They don't want poop water in the river either. So the big need is to protect the health of the river. But because we have this consent decree with the EPA, they really dictate how we're supposed to be doing that. So some of the needs that we have related to the sewer issue is, oops, I thought I had fancy animation on the slide, but I guess I do not, so it's all there. To better use our existing infrastructure, the stuff we have already paid for, are we using that intelligently? Are we getting the most out of the capacity that's there? EPA has required us to minimize or eliminate combined sewer overflows depending on whether it's wet weather versus dry weather. We really need to keep stormwater from ever getting into the sewer system to prevent the cost of transporting it and then treating it. It's better just to not put it in there at all. If there's nothing wrong with it, just let it go back into the ground. Preventing basin backups for health and party reasons. Maximizing the recreational and fisheries value of the river. There are only a very small handful of rivers that are considered so polluted that they're not considered swimmable or fishable. So the goal is to keep every river fishable and swimmable. There are a handful of rivers that we've already given up on, and they don't have to meet the same standards that we have to meet. So people sometimes are frustrated that, why do we have to keep the St. Joseph clean? It's not fair. Other cities, blah, blah, blah. Because they're so far gone that they can't be fixed and we've just given up on them, we're not ready to give up on the St. Joseph. And then to comply with the federal consent decree, which has a lot of very stringent and narrow rules and guidelines about how we will, not guidelines, legal obligations about how we will do this. But there is an opportunity. It's not all bad. So the opportunity is to work with the EPA and some really smart people and some good technology to try to achieve all of these needs. So the opportunity is to reduce taxpayer costs by not building things that we don't need to build. There's an opportunity to better redesign the system so that we're not putting in some of the big tanks and pipes and pumps that we had planned to put in. So we said, hey, EPA, we'll put in all this really expensive stuff, and now we're saying, actually, just kidding. We actually can use technology, we can use diversion, we can use green stormwater infrastructure to keep water from even needing to be stored underground or transported via giant pipes. So if we can do that, and we can plan it, and we can prove it to the EPA using models and rainwater data, then we can reduce the cost that this program is going to be on the taxpayers and the water ratepayers, sewer ratepayers in South Bend. It also gives us a city as laboratory opportunity. So we have a CSO net smart sewer system, which involves a lot of monitoring and controls to help us better understand how our system is working, where it can be used better, and it's actually been very effective in reducing overflows, very effective in reducing dry weather overflows, and alerting people when service needs to be done. So we've been working with a handful of startups that have had really great ideas to bring technologies to the market that are willing to try them out in South Bend. We have been working with schools and universities, although to kind of explore how we can better use our existing infrastructure and what we might be able to do in the future to reduce these costs. We have a big opportunity to better utilize the infrastructure that we've already had, similar to the street. So in public works, people talk about street network and sewer and water distribution network as linear assets. They kind of think of them in the same way, basically a network. So if you have capacity that isn't being well used, we don't need 5 lanes on Main Street to transport the amount of cars. We could allocate some of those lanes to pedestrians, to bikes, to grass or trees. It's the same way with the sewer system. If we have lines that are getting underutilized, can we build little connections so that stormwater can flow into the underutilized pipe rather than overflowing from the full pipe? So it's all about taking the capacity that we've already invested in, we've already paid for, making little tweaks, paint and curb on a road, or a small connecting pipe, or a pump, or a control on a sewer, and getting more value out of the exact same infrastructure with just a little bit of investment. There's also an opportunity to engage private property owners. If you own a home in South Bend and you have gutters that are going right into the storm sewer system, you are actually contributing to this issue, and you'll be asked to do a very basic little snip. The city will actually do it for you, pay for it, to send that stormwater from your roof into your yard rather than directly into the storm sewer. But private property owners also have a huge opportunity to plant green roofs, do permeable parking lots, and really contribute to keeping water out of the storm system. You know, the city does not own and does not have rights to dictate unilaterally what private property owners do. So we're going to need everyone's help, and I'm hoping to see in the future some incentives and encouragement and support for private property owners who want to contribute to the solution. And really, there's a huge opportunity to improve neighborhoods. So by investing in green infrastructure, and I think this is on campus. Yeah, so this is I use South Bend parking lot green infrastructure where stormwater runs out of the parking lot into this grassy swale and is naturally absorbed rather than going directly into the storm sewer via a grate. So with plantings like these in neighborhoods, you're going to see more wildlife habitat, opportunities for gardening or edible trees or beekeeping, recreational or community areas, green space. It's shocking how many South Bend neighborhoods do not have significant parkland to speak of. Beautification and economic development, you know, you can see how nice it is to have a new streetscape that includes some of these planted strips. You can see it also along Western and Lincoln Way, where all the new street trees I've planted. Reducing the heat island effect and making the temperature a little more reasonable in those hot summer days. And reducing emissions from having to mow if you plant natural grasses like this as opposed to just turf grass, which is not actually great for managing stormwater. So there's a huge opportunity to actually use our stormwater problem to invest in making neighborhoods better if we plan it the right way. And so, you know, one of the themes throughout these wicked problems is that there's a chance to squeeze more value out of the money you were going to spend anyways. But it's not always economic value. Sometimes it's social value. Sometimes it's environmental value. But by stepping back, slowing down, being more collaborative, relying on best practices, you can actually find these added value elements, build it into your project, and provide for the community something that's a whole that's much greater than the sum of its parts. So that's the opportunity to meet the need that we have to reduce our combined sewer overflows. And then the solution, again, is in a lot of ways based on data gathering. So making sure that we have really high quality modeling. We've been able to use our CSOnet to improve our model quite a bit and have a much better sense of where the stormwater is coming from, how fast it's flowing, what the pipes and tanks that are already underground are actually doing, how much capacity is excess. We're doing a much better job at modeling, and in some cases, we're not even modeling, but we're actually monitoring real-time what's happening. So we just have much better information this time around than when we were previously planning the original long-term control plan. We're going to be able to set it up so that we have warning systems and the ability to remotely open and close valves or divert from a full pipe to a less full pipe. We're looking to add interconnections and redundancies to really take make better use of our capacity. So, for example, you can't really see it in this map, but on this side of town, there's some very large pipes that don't get a lot of use. And so if you just created from this pipe that's often over full, a connector to send that water over to the less full pipe, they're all going to the wastewater treatment plant. So you're basically building those interconnections so that you have redundancy in your system, more flexibility in how you operate your system. Green infrastructure is a solution that I'm very excited about for those reasons I mentioned earlier about bringing value to neighborhoods and investing in our parks and our communities. And then careful siting and planning and sizing of projects. So there's an idea that, and if you go to I have added, okay, so the website for this is southbendina.gov/CSO. And if you go there, you'll be able to see all of the presentations that we've had with our consultant past several months. And the idea is now that we're going to be able to potentially eliminate some of the big tanks and pipes that we thought we were going to have to put in, because we're going to be able to, in certain geographic locations, we now have enough information to say, we can manage this with a lot of rain gardens and permeable pavement. We can actually keep the water out of the system. We don't need to be building something to contain it. We can just not have it at all. And that is a substantial savings to the taxpayer. So we're really excited about using this data to be able to more intelligently plan our system so that it actually serves us better and costs less and requires fewer giant tanks and pipes in there. Okay, and then the last thing that I want to talk about is the smart citizens aspect. So, who said that? So this is also in some ways a wicked problem. And if you've ever worked for government and you've been on the business end of a nasty phone call or email, or you've attended a council meeting or a budget hearing, or really just anything, you've seen what happens when citizens are not informed. And you've seen how little value it adds to solving these collective problems that we all have. So I would encourage you to take this really personally. And here is the need for, this is the definition of our wicked problem. This is actually from the Regional Cities Initiative study. Population stagnation threatens Indiana's growth. Healthy, vibrant communities require dynamic and growing populations. I could have added a lot more things here about like how unhelpful it is to be negative and how hard your civil servants are working for you and how educated they are and how you really don't need to be ridiculing them at every stage. But that's neither here nor there. This is based on actual data statewide. Brain drain is a real issue. Birth rates are low. And unless we become the kind of communities that people want to live, we're not going to be competitive in our region or in the country. So with every problem, there's an opportunity. And our opportunity in this smart citizens issue is to really serve as the capacity for South Bend becoming that type of community. So we each have an opportunity to be partnered with local government. We also have the responsibility to hold local government accountable. We have a lot of good ideas. We have a lot of maybe overly engineered ideas. It's always good to be on watch and helpfully dial back what we're planning to do. However, we really do rely on community leaders, academics, experts, business professionals, people who are experts in their field, people who are experts in fields that we're not experts in, to provide these kinds of resources. And people who have passions that we don't have. You know, I am very passionate about sustainability, but you're passionate about the arts, and together we can get something really great done in South Bend, but it takes all of us. So then the cycle is that we're actually building a better South Bend, and one that has an authentic feeling of place. You know, the anti-Great Road, you know, that's what we're creating here. So it takes all of us to do that, and by doing that, you attract new residents, which in turn attracts new businesses, which in turn creates new opportunities, and opportunities not just for smart young white people, but opportunities for everybody who has been struggling to find a place in our economy and in our community. So, and then it's cyclical. So the more people that you attract and the more businesses that invest, the more capacity you have to build a better South Bend, and it builds. So that's the opportunity. And so a couple of solutions, which I'm sure will be very obvious to you. And this is a mural that was painted during Back Bend, I think last year. So again, going back to data, as a smart citizen, it's important to seek information. So check your facts. or all sides of an issue. Practice understanding of wicked problems. Nothing is as straightforward as it seems. I can't tell you how many phone calls I get. Charles, why haven't you fixed recycling yet? You guys, I'm telling you, it's a really complicated issue. There are lots of players involved, and it's not something that can be solved overnight. But the issues that you start tackling collaboratively are the ones that have the most enduring solutions. And read up on what other communities are doing. You know, don't think that South Bend exists in a vacuum. Don't think that we're creating something that hasn't been created yet. Every community is dealing with similar problems, and we can learn from them. We can come up with good ideas. We can, mimic what other places are doing. And participate. Participate in your city government. Come to council meetings. Run for office. There are lots of ways you can get involved. Serve on a board. And also participate in your neighborhood associations. Think about attending neighborhood resource connections, neighborhood leadership academy. Take advantage of those kinds of training and capacity building activities. Volunteer. Serve as a mentor. Serve on a nonprofit board. Get involved and give back. Start something. Be a local social entrepreneur. And vote. In every election, every time, every office, at every level, please vote. And then this is really cool. This is something I found from an Australian city council member. And every action is a vote for the sort of world you want. And here are some of the things that smart citizens are doing in South Bend. You may recognize yourself or some of your friends. Okay, so going back to our community sustainability goals, now that we have these in the context of streets, sewers, citizens, you can see that they're broad goals, but there's room for each of us to contribute based on the passions and the talents and the expertise that we have. Each of us has room to contribute to a sustainable South Bend in the service of these goals. And then, we talked about the triple bottom line, people, planet, profit, and it was that Venn diagram where everything was overlapping. Another model that you might want to think about, and I'm going to leave you with this, is this nested visualization of the triple bottom line. Economies serve people. Government is here to protect the foundations of our society, the ecosystems that allow us to have a society, to shore up the social systems. We don't live and die by the dollar. And local government has a very specific and meaningful role in allowing and supporting the triple bottom line. And that's, yes, because sustainability is really about us. If there were not people, we would not need sustainability. Here's my contact information. Please follow us on Facebook. I really get a kick out of that. So. Thank you.
So we have about 15 minutes for some questions, and then afterwards we'll address and be hanging around for a few minutes, and we'll come up and talk to you after that as well. Any questions that we might have? We've got somebody from South Carolina in here, so.
Thanks. Sorry, just really two quick questions. One, in general, how much would the sewer, water project cost in the general overview, if you know? And then, three actually. And then the second one, could be one word answer. Do you have another city that's really behind the eight ball that we can read about, that I could read about, just kind of follow along? And not Detroit, besides Detroit. And then the third one is what is South Bend have a larger solar project in the works?
So the original consent decree that we actually signed was estimated to be $600 million in 2012 dollars. Now we have performed about $150 million worth of that work. However, because of inflation, because of some bad estimations, the remainder is actually looking at being 700 million. So the amount that we have left to do is actually more than the original estimate. So that is why we are really busting tail trying to figure out how to use rain gardens instead of digging giant tanks. There's going to be a long conversation with our consultants and ideally with the EPA to try to come to an agreement that makes it easier on ratepayers, because it's just not feasible for the residents in South Bend at the as close to the poverty line as so many of our residents are. And then the second question was, in terms of behind the eight ball, do you mean in terms of combined sewer, or do you mean generally in terms of sustainability?
Generally, I know,
Yeah. So, South Bend is, we have a couple of regional benchmarks based on our, kind of post-industrial Great Lakes, Midwestern sensibilities. I really look to Grand Rapids as kind of a role model of where we could fairly easily be. Bloomington also, that's very achievable to be the kind of community that, Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, Bloomington, we could totally be there, no problem. Other more, aspirational places would be places like Toronto, Chicago, Austin, but those are bigger cities. They have different characteristics. When I think about, for my office, my benchmarks, I usually look to Grand Rapids. And then your third question was solar. So solar is challenging because, again, wicked problems. You don't get to put panels up on your roof in a vacuum. You have state policies, both on the legislative side and on the utility commission side. You have investor-owned utilities that aren't really excited about solar. You have the grid, which has a really hard time handling distributed energy, and then you have people with a lot of money lobbying all these different groups. So right now, in Indiana, solar is not very cost effective. It's a lot different in other places where they have higher utility rates and more state support. And so most of the solar that you see in South Bend is going to be funded. And the solar project that the city is installing at the Century Center is grant funded. It's actually funded by a grant that comes from a settlement from Sierra Club suing Indiana Michigan Power Commission. So, in a roundabout way, the utility did fund our solar project, but there are some technical and some logistical and some just attitude challenges to really a widespread solar in South Bend.
Hi. I've lived here for 5 years now. I noticed the industry comes, and immediately what came to mind of what I assume would be a real obstacle for sustainability and gentrification. It seems like a lot of these projects will raise property values, may cater to a more global value than a local value. How do you go about addressing the problems of gentrification and holding it off? Or is that a priority? Or is that not a priority?
Gentrification is truly a wicked problem. And when I lived in DC, I struggled with it personally quite a bit. But I think there's a general sense, and I'm not saying that I agree with this, but I think there's a general sense that attracting tax base means that there's more money available to provide programs to under-resourced people who really need services. The idea that the Parks Department would have more money for after-school programs, that the schools would have a larger tax base. There's kind of this lifts all boats mentality when you're attracting development. So, and in some ways I think that's true because South Bend has a huge problem with its tax base. We have a ton of nonprofits, we have a ton of vacant properties, we have some of these universities that don't carry their weight. So, we don't have a great tax base here, and that's something that we really do need to shore up with private investment. I do think that the mayor is very committed, and in fact, recently, if you've seen any of his kind of new mission statement materials recommitted to the idea that every person living in South Bend deserves an opportunity that matches their skill level, and if there isn't one, then we need to get them more skills, or we need to create more opportunities. So I do feel that at citywide, and maybe this doesn't bubble up in my office as much because of the type of projects that we do, but citywide, there's definitely a sense that there are neighborhoods that haven't seen investment that need to see investment. There are people who have trouble getting to opportunities, and those folks need education. And there's a lot of question about, is it the role of city government to provide these kinds of social services? And I think in South Bend, based on our values, we would answer yes.
My name's Ruben. I live on East Outland now, and my pipes are connected. So I thought, hey, why don't I disconnect them? And I thought, oh, I have a flat roof. Why don't I put on a green roof? And then I went to looking and seeing how am I going to do this. And it's surprisingly difficult, even though I actually researched it before. It's surprisingly difficult to start the process of doing something like that, find the vendors who will do that, and three, see if there's any assistants who are actually doing it in the first place. I mean, my assumption that there's not right now, but, it's easy to say disconnect your pipes and put them in your lawn. It's a lot harder when if you do that, you end up having water run in the basement or something like that. So I'm trying to get creative, but there's really not that many resources. How are things moving along in terms of giving individual homeowners the resources they need to do some of these projects, which can be expensive?
That's a great question, and I agree with you that we don't have, although we all agree here in South Bend that we really value innovation, sometimes we don't have the policies or the financial incentives that actually support that innovation. And solar is a good example, and green roofs are a good example. And I'm on the board of Works, and one thing that I think has been really challenging is we don't always have the local vendors in South Bend that are capable of providing these kinds of things. And we're very blessed to have innovative solar, homegrown in South Bend, but they won't do anything smaller than an IKEA unless you're 19. And they'll do your house. But it's difficult to find solar installers. It's difficult to find green roof experts. These are things that, as city government is learning more about it, and as the residents are learning more about it, our vendors are also struggling to get educated so that they can provide those services. Because they definitely don't want us going to Indianapolis or Chicago or Louisville because they don't know how to create a roundabout, or because they don't know how to install a rain garden. So they're trying to catch up, but it's not easy, and you can't just open the yellow pages and find your green roof installer. For sure, that is something that I've noticed looking at giant city infrastructure projects, and even as a homeowner, trying to find someone who could put in a solar hot water heater. And then in terms of incentives, my personal dream, and this is in no way reflective of conversations that are happening with the Public Works Department, but I'd love to see a stormwater fee where people who have a lot of impervious surfaces are paying into a pool, and that money can be used to offset stormwater impacts in other places, and that pool money would be available for correctly installed rain gardens and ripping out asphalt and putting in permeable pavers. Some of those capital-intensive projects that are really difficult for homeowners and nonprofit organizations.
Do we have any women who would like to ask a question? And 3 guys that like to make sure that we give everybody access.
Is it about my pockets or lack of pockets?
That can set me up perfectly for my question, which is, in light of all this, how closely have you guys been partnering or working with organizations like Small Business Association in the areas you can tackle it at the foundational level? To your point, is there a way we can influence what our businesses are creating and doing and thinking at the very beginning, so we're out of the cycle of acute and into something that's more preventative or educational, and hopefully long-term than environmental with the actual economy itself?
That's a great question. I think in a lot of ways, our culture is, well, we think that the market should drive it. Why does Grand Rapids have the most lead buildings per capita in the middle of conservative Michigan. Like, how did that happen? When did that happen? There's actually a really interesting story that I've looked to it. The market demands sustainable office space, and so people build it, people retrofit so that their office space is sustainable because that's what the market wants. In South Bend, we're not asking for it, we're not demanding it. One person in the history of ever wanted to install a green roof on their house, and the vendor was like, no, I can't, and that was the end of the conversation. So we as a consumers, and as leaders at our organizations have to drive the conversation. So that's part of it. And then the other part of it is city government, county government, state government could be taking much larger roles in incentivizing businesses to make the shift and helping them, especially small businesses, pay for these changeovers. And we're not, I mean, it's not politically preferred strategy right now. And you've seen the dismantling of the Energizing Indiana program, which was helping people reduce their energy bills to the point where now you're leaving it up to utility to decide how much they want to give you for your lighting retrofits. And it's a really uncertain territory, and it's hard to make plans if you're a small business owner or any business owner, because it's really not clear what our priorities are.
Okay, I think we'll, it's 15 after 8, so I think we're going to call it to a close. I think Therese will be hanging around for those of you who didn't get a chance to ask your questions. This has been our best audience, biggest audience so far, so we want to thank you all. We encourage you to come out next week for Robert Colangelo, the president and founding farmer of Green Sense Farms. It is the largest vertical farm in America. Robert just got back from China where he's building another farm, and I think it'll be a very exciting conversation. I would just like to reiterate what Therese has said about the importance of community's capacity. And we like to say in our office that nobody can do everything, but everybody can do something, and you all can make a difference. And I think that she's given us some big hints about how we can become part of those smart citizens that contribute to a smarter and a more sustainable city and a more sustainable future. So let's give Therese another round of applause.